A quiet suburban street, two loving parents, and a little boy whose innocent trouble somehow spoke to an entire generation. Leave It to Beaver wasn't just a family sitcom. It became a picture of 1950s American childhood, full of lessons, mischief, and warm living room memories. But time has moved far beyond the Cleaver home. Some cast members grew into lifelong TV icons. Some lived private lives away from fame, and some are sadly no longer with us. Today, we look back at the cast of Leave It to Beaver, then and now, and see what happened after Beaver grew up. Ward Cleaver was played by Hugh Beaumont at the age of 47. Calm, steady, and always ready with a quiet lesson after Beaver got into trouble, Ward became the kind of father figure many viewers associated with old-fashioned family television. Hugh Beaumont passed away in 1982 at the age of 73. Away from the Cleaver home, he had a varied life as an actor, writer, and Methodist minister, which may be why Ward's advice often felt so measured and sincere. Looking back, Ward Cleaver feels like a snapshot of another era. He was not a loud sitcom dad, just a patient presence in a suit and tie, helping turn small childhood mistakes into gentle life lessons. June Cleaver was played by Barbara Billingsley at the age of 41. Graceful, composed, and almost always perfectly put together, June became the image of the 1950s television mother, keeping the Cleaver home warm, orderly, and quietly reassuring. Barbara Billingsley passed away in 2010 at the age of 94. After the series, she surprised a new generation with her famous comedy turn in Airplane, and later returned to the world of family television through voice work and reunion projects. June Cleaver remains memorable because she carried the show's gentle rhythm. Whether she was listening to Beaver's latest problem or giving Wally a knowing look, Barbara Billingsley made kindness feel effortless. Eddie Haskell was played by Ken Osmond at the age of 14. Polite in front of the parents and full of mischief the moment they left the room, Eddie became the perfect troublemaker in Wally and Beaver's carefully ordered world. Ken Osmond passed away in 2020 at the age of 76. After growing up on television, he later left acting for many years and served as a Los Angeles police officer, a real-life turn that still surprises many fans. Eddie Haskell worked because everyone seemed to know a kid like him. That overly sweet smile, the fake manners, and the sneaky comments behind the adults' backs made him one of the show's most unforgettable characters. Larry Mondello was played by Robert Rusty Stevens at the age of 9. As Beaver's chubby, cheerful best friend, Larry brought a playful kind of trouble to the show, usually helping turn a small idea into a much bigger problem. Now 77, Robert Rusty Stevens has lived mostly away from the spotlight after his early years as a child actor. For many longtime fans, Larry remains the role that brings back the warmest memories of Beaver's school days. Larry made childhood feel real in a simple, funny way. He was the friend who meant well, got hungry, got curious, and somehow helped Beaver end up in trouble, without ever seeming too worried about it. Gilbert Bates was played by Stephen Talbot at the age of 8. Clever, talkative, and often a little too eager to push Beaver into a bad idea, Gilbert added another layer of schoolyard mischief to the series. Today, 77, Stephen Talbot moved far beyond child acting and built a respected career in journalism and documentary production. His later work behind the camera gave his life a very different path from the sitcom world fans remember. Gilbert stood out because he felt like the kid who always had a plan, even when it was clearly the wrong one. His scenes with Beaver captured that familiar childhood mix of curiosity, peer pressure, and harmless trouble. Whitey Whitney was played by Stanley Fafara at the age of 8. Small, lively, and always part of Beaver's childhood circle, Whitey helped give the show its easy schoolyard feeling. Stanley Fafara died in 2003, at the age of 53. After his years as a child actor, his life became much harder away from television, making his story one of the more bittersweet turns among the young cast. Whitey reminds viewers of the show's simple childhood world. Friends on the sidewalk, small adventures, and little mistakes that felt enormous at the time. Richard Rickover, age then 9. Richard Rickover was played by Richard Carell at the age of 9. As one of Beaver's friends, he brought the familiar energy of neighborhood kids who could turn an ordinary afternoon into a new bit of trouble. As of now 78, Richard Carell later found lasting success behind the camera as a television director and producer. His career moved from childhood acting into shaping shows for later generations of family audiences. Richard Rickover was part of what made Beaver's world feel so lived in. The show worked because it understood how children talked, wondered, copied each other, and sometimes made poor decisions for reasons only kids understand. Judy Hensler was played by Jeri Weil at the age of 9. Bossy, smug, and always ready to get Beaver in trouble, Judy became one of those schoolroom characters viewers love to be annoyed by. Nowadays 78, Jeri Weil stepped away from acting after her childhood years on television. For fans of the series, Judy remains her most memorable role and a sharp little contrast to Beaver's innocence. Judy added a very real kind of childhood tension to the show. Every classroom needed someone who knew the rules too well and enjoyed reminding everyone else. Miss Alice Landers was played by Sue Randall at the age of 22. Gentle, patient, and kind, without feeling too perfect, she became one of the teachers who made Beaver's school world feel safe and familiar. Sue Randall passed away in 1984 at the age of 49. Away from the classroom scenes fans remember, her life after television was much quieter, which makes her warm presence on the show feel even more nostalgic today. Miss Landers had the kind of calm voice every child hoped to hear at school. She gave Beaver's small problems a sense of care, turning ordinary classroom moments into something surprisingly comforting. Fred Rutherford was played by Richard Deacon at the age of 36. Formal, proud, and often far too impressed with his own opinions, Fred brought a funny adult contrast to the simpler world of Beaver and Wally. Richard Deacon passed away in 1984 at the age of 63. Beyond Leave It to Beaver, he became widely remembered for The Dick Van Dyke Show, where his sharp delivery and polished comic style made him a familiar face in classic television. Fred Rutherford worked because he felt like the neighbor every suburb seemed to have, respectable on the outside, slightly ridiculatorily sullive. Tui Brown was played by Tiger Fafara at the age of 13. As one of Wally's friends, Tui brought teenage energy into the Cleaver world, adding a different kind of mischief from Beaver's younger schoolmates. As of now, at 81, Tiger Fafara has lived mostly away from the spotlight after his early television years. His connection to the series remains part of the show's extended family of familiar neighborhood kids. Tui helped show the world Wally was growing into. Older friends, bigger conversations, and the first hints of teenage independence. That small shift gave the series another layer beyond Beaver's childhood adventures. Mrs. Cornelia Rayburn was played by Doris Packer at the age of 53. Firm, polished, and always in control of the school hallways, she gave Beaver's world the kind of authority every child instantly recognized. Doris Packer passed away in 1979 at the age of 75. Long before and after her time as Mrs. Rayburn, she was a familiar face in classic television, often playing elegant women who could silence a room with one look. Mrs. Rayburn made school feel important, even when the problem was small. For Beaver, a visit to her office could feel like facing the highest court in town. Chester Anderson was played by Buddy Joe Hooker at the age of 17. As one of the older boys around Wally's circle, Chester brought a teenage confidence that made Beaver's childhood world feel just a little bigger. Currently 84, Buddy Joe Hooker became far more known behind the scenes as a legendary stuntman and stunt coordinator. His later work connected him to major films and action sequences far beyond the quiet streets of Mayfield. Chester may have been a small part of the series, but looking back, his path is one of the most surprising. The young face on a gentle family sitcom later became part of some of Hollywood's most physical and dangerous screen moments. Gus the fireman was played by Burt Mustin at the age of 73. Warm, kind, and full of old-fashioned charm, Gus felt like the friendly adult every neighborhood child could trust. Burt Mustin passed away in 1977 at the age of 92. He became one of classic television's most familiar older faces, appearing in sitcoms well into the later years of his life. Gus brought a gentle, grandfatherly feeling to Beaver's world. His scenes remind viewers of a time when a firehouse, a familiar face, and a kind word could feel like a whole childhood memory. Mrs. Margaret Mondello was played by Madge Blake at the age of 58. As Larry's mother, she brought a warm but slightly worried energy to the show, the kind of parent who always seemed one step away from discovering what the boys had done. Madge Blake passed away in 1969, at the age of 69. Beyond Leave It to Beaver, many viewers later remembered her as Aunt Harriet on Batman, where she became part of another classic television world. Mrs. Mondello added to the show's gentle picture of family life beyond the Cleaver home. Through her, Larry felt less like just Beaver's friend, and more like a real child with a mother waiting somewhere nearby. Angela Valentine was played by Lori Martin at the age of 10. Sweet, confident, and memorable in Beaver's young world, Angela brought a touch of childhood innocence and early schoolyard affection to the series. Lori Martin passed away in 2010 at the age of 62. She later became known for National Velvet, giving her career a connection to another family-friendly classic from the early television era. Angela's appearances captured the shy, simple feelings of childhood before romance had any real meaning. In Beaver's world, even a small crush could feel like a very big event. Alma Hansen was played by Cindy Carroll at the age of 13. She brought a gentle teenage presence to the series, adding another young face to the school and neighborhood life surrounding Beaver and Wally. At present, Cindy Carroll is 81 years old and has lived mostly away from the spotlight since her acting years. Her later life was far quieter than the black and white television world where many fans first saw her. Alma represents the kind of small role that helped Mayfield feel real. Not every character needed a big storyline. Sometimes one familiar face in the classroom or neighborhood was enough to bring the world together. Police Sergeant was played by Jess Kirkpatrick at the age of 60. Calm, official, and very much part of Mayfield's orderly little world. He brought a touch of grown-up authority whenever Beaver's troubles crossed into more serious territory. Jess Kirkpatrick passed away in 1976 at the age of 78. Across his career, he appeared in many supporting roles on film and television, becoming one of those dependable faces who helped classic shows feel grounded and believable. His scenes worked because Leave It to Beaver never needed huge drama to make a moment feel important. For Beaver, even speaking to a police sergeant could turn an ordinary mistake into a lesson he would not forget. Wally Cleaver was played by Tony Dow at the age of 12. Kind, handsome, and naturally protective of his little brother, Wally became the older sibling many viewers wished they had growing up. Tony Dow passed away in 2022 at the age of 77. After the series, he continued acting, later directed television, and also became known for his work as a sculptor, giving his life a creative path far beyond Mayfield. Wally gave the show much of its heart. He was not perfect, but he felt decent, loyal, and real. The kind of brother who might tease Beaver one minute and quietly stand by him the next. The Beaver was played by Jeri Mathers at the age of 9. Curious, honest, and always getting pulled into small problems that felt enormous to a child, Beaver became the face of everyday American childhood on television. Today, at 78, Jeri Mathers remains the living connection to the heart of the series. After growing up in front of millions, he stepped away, returned for later projects, and carried the memory of Beaver into every reunion and interview. What made Beaver last was how ordinary he felt. He was not trying to be clever or perfect. He was just a little boy learning, misunderstanding, and slowly figuring out the world one mistake at a time. And that's how time changed the beloved cast of Leave It to Beaver. From childhood innocence to lifelong memories, their stories still remind us why the Cleaver family became a television classic. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the then and now journey.